Welcome to the Mastering Business Skills podcast, where we interview successful small business owners who share their own journey, mastering the skills they needed to grow and be successful in their business. Learn the struggles, the wins, and all the things they learned along the way, so you can cut down on your own learning curve.
Welcome to Mastering Business Skills. Today we're talking with Rob Manne, the founder of Inflectiv, who partners with growing companies who are frustrated that their website, marketing, and sales investment aren't translating into revenue. Inflectiv implements and optimizes HubSpot, AI, and other growth platforms to enhance productivity, convert customers faster, and generate data for better forecasting, decision-making, and return on investment. So prior to founding Inflectiv, Rob was an award-winning marketing, communications, and sales practitioner for Interbrand, Edelman, and Rogers. Welcome to the show today, Rob.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Great to have you here. So tell our listeners a little bit about what you do and what inspired you to start your business.
Sure. So thanks for the overview you gave. At the end of the day, businesses spend a lot of time and a lot of money on getting customers, whether that's through marketing, through sales, and even through customer success. And so we really help them with the kind of operational side of those things. So if there's salespeople, they may not be using a tool that actually works for them, so a CRM system. Or if it's marketing, they're using a number of tools, but they're not able to actually see how all the work they're doing actually contributes to that closed business lead that they have. So we really help with companies that, they've got something in place, but they're not getting the full value from it. And so we help with training, we help with building the solution. Typically we use HubSpot, if you're familiar with CRM systems. And then they're able to then say, okay, great, now we know how people are working their way through the journey with us. We're able to accurately see and forecast what kind of sales we're going to get. And then we're able to make better decisions with that information. And so how I got into this is actually quite interesting in that I was not a systems and operations person to begin with. I was more like the person who did the marketing, the person who was a salesperson. And I never thought really systems were something that I cared about because they were kind of bad. And it was really only about 6 years ago that a client had bought HubSpot and they said that they needed help. They didn't know how to implement it. And I sort of did that. And I thought, actually, that was really, really a great product. And I really liked that kind of work where I'm really close to a client's business and I'm understanding, who their customer is. And I'm understanding the sales process, I'm understanding the marketing. So then I said, I did that work and I said, maybe I can do more of this work because I had a hypothesis that lots and lots of companies, there's plenty of marketing people out there, plenty of salespeople, but not as many people who can help them with this, the back end side of it. And so that's what led me to start the company. And then we grew and there's now 3 of us on the team doing the work that we do.
Nice. And Rob, I know you focus mostly in HubSpot, but you also work in other CRMs as well, correct?
Yeah. So we've worked with Salesforce, we've worked with Pipedrive. Really, what we say is like it's kind of good to specialize on one, but if someone's really nice or they've got a good budget, then it makes sense that we can help them with something else.
Nice.
Yeah. I should say too, a lot of CRM systems are connected to other things. So we like to specialize in, if it's like one of those lead gen programs like Instantly, if they want to connect that to their CRM, which then connects to, NetSuite or ERP systems, like it can get pretty complicated. So we don't want to make it overly complicated, but at the same time, usually one tool can't do everything that they need. So we like to be the people who help them say, what are the tools that you need? And then how do we make sure that works as easily as possible?
Right.
I like that. Yeah, because you definitely, it makes it, Sharon and I both know, it makes it so much easier when all of the systems kind of, or as many as possible at least, talk to each other versus, I have to log out of this system and I have to go into this system and I have to manually update this one from that one. And it yeah, that's where a lot of balls can get dropped or things can fall through the cracks or
And not just that, like it can get very expensive. Like, meaning, like you can easily spend like in one $20 a month package, then another 75, and then another 100, and like you could be spending, and this could be a small business of like 15 people, could be spending $500 a month, $1,000 a month, and that if you're not getting value from that, then you end up walking away.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen that myself even over the years where I've helped people like condense down what they're using because one of their systems or two of their systems can do what previously 10 of their systems were doing. And saves them so much. I mean, I had one client where it saved them $24,000 for the year just cutting extra systems that they didn't need to use.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
thanks. So we talked about mastering business skills. So tell us, what is one skill that you've mastered that you could share with the audience and they could either maybe learn a little bit more about right away, or they can implement on their own?
That's a really interesting question. So choosing one is difficult. I would say, like, you talked about before we started, you were just joking about ADD, right? Or ADHD. And so I don't know whether I have that clinically. My daughter does. And so when we were going through that process of, it was like, maybe Rob has this. But anyway, I'm bringing that up because when I first started in business, I was like so keen and so eager that like almost before someone finished saying their sentence, I would be like, great, I'm ready. Let me go off and do that. And so I would say listening has been something, and like, of course, listening is something that everybody needs to do. But like active listening or more thoughtful listening would probably be one of the biggest skills that I've learned to hone. And I don't even feel that I've mastered that yet. I think it's like almost like a lifelong skill, because what you listen for when you're 20 changes that when you're 30, when you're 40, and like you just have so much more experience to draw upon. And even the listening that you do, you need to know the right questions to ask in order to get deeper. So like there's something called, I don't do this super formally, but the 5 why framework that, if you ask the question why 5 times, you'll get to the underlying heart of an issue. But that, whether you do that exact tactic or just ask questions in a way that is exploratory and meaningful and doesn't just focus on the clinical or the rational, there's a lot of emotional things that you learn to listen for too that you grow with over time. So I would say that would be the skill. When I think about how people could practice that at home or in their own business, I would say it's really surrounding yourselves with other people that do that really well, and being a fly on the wall. So I had the benefit of working for agencies for many years, and like I knew absolutely nothing when I started, but I thought I knew a lot, right? And so it was only when I really sort of shadowed the senior people in the meeting, that I really started to understand what went into listening and how that could be applied.
Right. We all learn, I think, by example, and that's a perfect example of learning. And I agree. I think learning is a lifelong task. We're always learning to listen and do those kind of things. So yeah. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's maybe starting their business, Rob, what would that one piece of advice be?
I would love to hear what the answer to this question was from your other guests. So, because I'm worried I'm like saying things that everybody else is saying. But even though I was just singing the praises of not kind of jumping off half cocked, I would say we have an expression in PR, which is where I started, which is shipped is better than perfect.
Yep.
Okay. And so that kind of is the underlying concept of having like what in tech the people call like a minimum viable product, right? Meaning just start with something.
Yeah.
Don't spend a lot of time brewing it or spending too much time overthinking it, because whatever you're working on, until it goes into the market, it doesn't really matter, because it's a bunch of hypotheses, it's a bunch of theories, so when it comes to applying that to a business, it's like, okay, if you want to become a consultant, it's like you can spend ages on your website, spend ages on your pitch deck, but it's like until you start talking to people about their actual problems and what they need, then whatever you have, it doesn't really matter. And so I would say that's been a really fundamental principle with our business, because when I first started the business, it was a completely different business. It wasn't even related to this. And I created a brand, I created a website, but I kind of held off on it because I was like, it didn't feel, as much as I loved that idea, I wasn't sure it was going to really fly. And then I ended up changing it based on all these discussions I was having about the pain points that businesses had. And so then I was like, okay, let's start with this. And I would say that idea of shipping things, where it's like, okay, so here's what we were in year one, and here's the services that we provided. In year two, that evolved a lot. And if I would have stuck with what we were doing in year one, it wouldn't have been as impactful. And even now, we're still thinking about what do we want to do in year five. So I would say that, like, think about what you can stand up. If you're a service company, it's a lot easier to stand up a service because you're like, we do this now. But on the product side, it's like, what can we get going as a prototype, as something to get friends and family to test? And then you start to iterate based on that.
I agree. Aaron and I both have had clients that, because we talk about this all the time, just doing something to move you forward is better than doing nothing and just overthinking everything. So
and especially with if you're selling stuff, because it's going to take you a long time for people to make a decision. Right. And so while you don't want to go unprepared, having the discussion about things that you can do or things that people can buy from you, it's going to take time. So like doing that in real time is really helpful.
Right.
Yeah, I remember years ago too reading a book by Liz Gilbert where she put in there something about like, and I'm gonna butcher how it was put, but it was something along the lines of like, your ideas will come to you, and then you can either take action on them or not, and some of them will go away and go to another person, and some will stay with you because you're the person that's supposed to have that idea. Which I found interesting, because she even said like she had a book idea, and she said, I had this idea and I put it off, and I set it aside. And she said years later I ran into this, I was at an event or something and talked to this woman, and she had a book that she had just released, which was my exact idea that I had, even down to like characters and everything. And she said it was so bizarre because she never told the idea to anybody. So it wasn't like the woman took the idea. It just moves from, to somebody else. And I always thought that was interesting, because I think a lot of business owners do overthink the idea that they have or what they want to do. Is somebody going to say something about it? Will people like it? Will people buy it? And, I did that myself for years, even with the podcast, like, oh no, I want to start a podcast, but I'm going to hold off. What if people don't like it? What, whatever. And when we launched it, we were like, it went amazing and quick. And, we kind of were like, all these ideas that we've had that we're now in that season of life where we're like, but, we're just going to do them. We're just going to put it out there and see how it lands. And like, we're having so much fun with it now versus all of the years that we waited because it wasn't perfect and we didn't have it fully thought out and all of that. So,
right. And that's a lot of the complaint that I get is, well, it's not perfect yet.
Yeah.
Who says it has to be perfect? Nothing's going to be perfect. You're going to always be revamping. If it's your website, you're always going to be making even subtle changes. So it's like, what are you waiting for? That's typically what I ask my clients. What are you waiting for?
And like, I also say, like, no one cares. Like, no one cares about anything. That sounds horrible. I don't think of that in like my worldview, but So if you were to be like, I have my new thing, and you're going to launch it on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, the amount of people that will get exposed to that first message will be tiny. It's the repetition and the ongoing things about, we've won this client, we've done this, we've done, that's where it'll happen. And therefore, iterating, and if you start out not perfect, it's really like by the time people care, you will be a lot more closer to perfect.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to ask you if you could share a couple of stories that our audience could kind of relate to how you support your clients and like the things that you do a little bit better, especially if they don't maybe use HubSpot right now, or they don't have systems in place, things like that, on how you and your team kind of help with that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So it can be systems and like big processes can be pretty overwhelming. So it's really helpful to kind of boil it down to certain things where this was the problem and here's what the solution was. So we work with this one company. Well, actually, first of all, so when we talk about a CRM, it's a three-letter word, as we like to say. And so it is basically, at the end of the day, it's a database where you say, who are all the people that are important to my business? Okay, so that's like the base layer where you have, Sharon, Aaron, and then you have information that you know about them. Where it gets more powerful is when you add layers of when your email is integrated with your CRM, where you've got your forms integrated with your CRM, where you're doing ads. And so basically you start to see for Aaron, hey, did she visit our website? Did she open our marketing emails? Has she had a conversation with sales? Has she booked any meetings? And so that accumulates over time to get more and more value. So that's the 101 about what it is that we do. Now, one client that we had, which was a European-based healthcare technology company, they had a really disruptive glaucoma care device that they invented. Okay, so they launched this device, but because of regulations globally, it's a very scattered process by which they need to get approval, and then they need to get distribution in like all of these regions all around the world. And so what was happening was, as a startup, they were getting inundated with inquiries, and so what was happening was people were submitting a contact us form, and then they were booking meetings, and the sales team was, they would spend one day talking to, they would have a meeting with a glaucoma patient who was like, oh my God, I need to get this device. How do I get it right now? Then they were talking with a doctor who was like, I want to give this to my patients. Then they were talking to distributors in different regions. And as a result, like this wasn't even approved anywhere for purchase. So they basically were like, we're drowning in all of these leads, which is kind of like everyone's dream, but it wasn't actually structured in a way that they could do it. So I like to use this example because it's actually very, very simple what we did. So we implemented a system that helped them manage the bucket by which all of these people fell into. And then we've just basically said, okay, the form that you have on your website, that form needs to capture a lot more information, because if you have too many leads, that means we need to introduce a bit of friction, make people work a little harder to say, tell us, are you a doctor? Are you a patient? What region are you in? All of this information. And then once that happened, then we were able to build a system that routed people in based on what we know about them. So for the people that are in the regions that eventually got approved, like Germany, then it's like, let's make sure the people in Germany, we can fast track them to actually speak to somebody, because then we can say it's available here, here's our distributor, yada, yada. For the other people, then we said, okay, let's build nurture flows for them and add them to our newsletter. So it's like, hey, I'm so excited that you're interested in our product. Here's an automated email that was sent from HubSpot that said, it's not available yet, but we're going to send you updates on all the ways that, all the places that we're going to be showing up. And as soon as it doesn't get lit up in your area, boom, you're going to get an update there. So not super complicated process. It was a form change, a bunch of automated emails, and a process by which the sales team was able to basically see the people and know where they're at in their process and match that to where their business is at.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like
Awesome.
how you went through the entire flow too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like that's one example, and there's so many different use cases depending on what the company's for, what the companies are doing. In a lot of cases, it's the ability to forecast is not really there. So if you have a sales team, and you would think that it would be very easy for a company to say, okay, sales team, tell us what deals you think are going to close in the next little bit, and then have some confidence in that when it comes to actually realizing that revenue. But for a lot of reasons, that actually doesn't happen as much as you would think. So it's usually around if they don't have a system that says, put your deals in, give us a sense of what you expected revenue is going to happen. If they don't have a system like that, we put that in. But if they do, usually there's some sort of disconnect between the sales team and the actual tools that they're using. So it could be that they're not entering the deals appropriately, they're not updating them, things are getting kind of stale. And so it really introduces that level of accountability where it's like, okay, every week we're going to look and see how reliable is it with the deals that we have in our system to actually close in the time frame. And if they're not reliable, no problem. Like, let's just make them updated. Let's just make them realistic to bridge the gap between what sales. We talk about sales fiction a lot, meaning love salespeople. I was one myself, but they can be an optimistic bunch, right? And it's like, if you really, we need to say like, is this going to happen? Yes, no. If not, then let's figure out how to make that realistic. So that's another example. And there's a lot more, but I don't want to take the whole hour talking about that.
Nice. So tell me, Rob, what does success mean to you? And has your definition changed over the years?
Right. Okay. So yes, it has. I'm very reflective now as we talk about when I first started in the business, and I was like probably more interested in I would say status and like the big names, big brands I wanted to work with. So I loved being in the room with like what did I work on? Intel, Samsung, eBay. Like I worked with these brands and it was like, wow, it's great. And I worked for a company that had a big brand, right? So that really was like one of my motivating drivers that it was like if I could work on something, I worked on like the Olympic torch relay, right? Like I worked on those campaigns that there was like super valuable, meaningful, but I was kind of like a cog in a very big wheel. And as I've had more experience, I've moved away from that kind of idea of status and working with big brands, and to me, it's a lot more about the impact I can have and the people that I can work with. So, so and also I would say the challenge that I'm involved in. So as I said, that example that I gave with that company was a tiny company, but if I can get people who are suffering from glaucoma with my little operational, pixie dust that we do, if I can get those people to have care and to ultimately be more healthy, then that's really meaningful to us. So I don't chase kind of the big brands now. I really want to be sure that I'm working with people that I respect and that I can work on challenges that can allow me to make a difference. So it's generally smaller clients, mid market companies, and at the end of the day, if I'm, for me, if success is happy client, meaningful results for them, and then our business like also grows as a result of that, then that makes me very happy.
That's great. Yeah.
So, what's the next skill that you plan to master and why that skill?
That's also a very good question. Can I say two?
You can.
Sure.
So the first skill would be like more of a soft skill. So my career trajectory took me from, like, I was a VP at the agencies I worked at. I had teams of people that worked under me, and like it didn't really make me happy because I kind of, as I got more senior, I got further away from the work, and I still love to talk about the work, but I when I first started this business, I was like, I really wanted to be the only person doing the work because it gave me the most joy. So I was really hands-on and I was really doing a lot. But I actually determined as I started to grow the team that like it's still not the best place for me to add the most value. And so I've been trying to think about how I can go to be less hands-on, but still more, but still as in the work as I was before. So I would say the challenge, so everyone who's like a manager will say delegation is my biggest challenge. And I wouldn't say that that's really the challenge. It's more how do I delegate while continuing to do the things that make me happy and have that connection. So like, before it would be like, when I first started, it was like, I was hands-on, I was doing the things, I got that satisfaction. Now I'm like, I'm doing a little bit more of the sales, I'm doing more of the high-level client relationship management. But I still don't want to get too far away from the things that, fill my bucket. So I would say the skill is growing and delegating without losing that connection because sometimes if I'm not involved at all, not only can it be not the best experience for our clients, it just doesn't make me feel good. So I'd say that's the first big one. And then the other one is just, so we work a lot with AI, and I would say I'm using AI in certain ways very well, but I really want to bring it to more aspects of our business. So that would be a hard skill where I do it less as a transaction, like I have to do this, but I really build it as a more strategic partner. And like I heard things, someone yesterday was telling me that they have different personas that they've created, right? So that they can query their CFO for their business, and then query their CFO agent, or query their new business agent for their business, and get them to develop content and get them to develop things. And I haven't gone to that level yet, so I think that could be really valuable for us.
That's great.
Yeah, I was just on a webinar recently where there were coaches and different things using AI that were using them in that way where one, it was, if somebody chatted in, the response was coming from the coach's voice and in the response that he would give for,
Yes.
frequently asked questions, things like that. And I know Sharon's dabbled, I think, a little bit more in the customizing AI section than I have.
Yeah.
I was a latecomer to AI, but yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely she's the tech guru out of the two of us. So she's definitely been more involved in the AI, but I think that's really cool, the features of like getting it so that it can really be like your assistant in a way versus just, throwing out random stuff.
Yeah, I was pretty hesitant when it first came out. It's like, I don't know that I really want to mess with that. But the more I get into it, the more I see how helpful it can be. So yeah, that's one of my big goals is to keep continuing to learn more about the AI and things I can do with it. So
Yeah, and everyone will tell you, like going back to my first thing, it's like you just start, just do it, right?
Yep, exactly.
Sometimes it's helpful. I wonder if I should take a course here or there, but the best thing is like almost think of it as a daily practice with yoga or whatever. It's like just spend a bit of time every day just thinking, how do I do something different with AI?
Yep.
The other thing I was going to mention is just a plug for HubSpot is HubSpot has a native integration with ChatGPT and Claude. So what's
Nice.
cool about that is like as much as like if you've used the CRM, it's like you have like it's called a record, like the main like there's the information on the left and then you got something on the right. And what I like about the integration with ChatGPT is it breaks you from the tyranny of having to force yourself to use that tool. You can literally be in ChatGPT and say, give me a report on the top 10 clients who opened our emails, visited our website, and have a annual revenue of 500 million and above, right? And so that uses your CRM data with external data, and that's where the magic happens, in my opinion. So text-based interaction with your CRM data, for people who are very proficient with ChatGPT, you need the pro version, but that to me is like a really exciting way to go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that
I
is.
love these podcasts because I always learn something new. So thank you.
Good.
So tell us, Rob, what's next for your business?
So part of it is related to what I talked about. So uh, we do use AI for our clients with the work that we do, and HubSpot has a lot of great AI features. But I would say that the big thing that we want to really like wave our hands to both the market and the people that we work with is there's so many different ways to use AI. We want to just show them the way it applies to sales and marketing data. So we want to be more overt about our ability to help clients who are struggling with that. There's plenty of AI consultants out there, and that's not really where we wanted to be, but because it can be so broad for everything. But the sweet spot that we have with sales operations, marketing operations, and CS operations, we want to just be sure that they know that's something that they can help us, that we can help them with. So I would say that would be the big one. And then kind of related to the other thing that I want to work on is we have been growing, and lately we've won bigger and bigger projects. So we've worked with, like the client I told you about, that was a few years back. And while we still will do that work, we've now have projects where we're kind of like the outsourced sales operations team or marketing operations team, and we have an ongoing mandate with clients. And as we move to that model, I need to staff up a little bit, and we need to have more people on the team. So I want to kind of think about how to do that in a way that keeps our really personal, really tight approach that we have. So I would say that moving up market a little bit while also retaining that sort of special sauce that's worked for us for these past 5 years has been a big focus for us too.
Nice.
Yeah.
And well, Rob, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of this information with our audience. And I am going to put in our show notes your LinkedIn profile, your website, and then I know we have a free diagnostic that's available as well. So we'll be posting that on there so that everybody can kind of jump in and test things out on that. And for everybody listening in, we appreciate you and we hope you are here for the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome.